If you're pouring your heart into your podcast, but still struggling to turn those listeners into paying clients, I've got something just for you. Imagine having a clear, simple plan to turn your listeners into buyers without relying on a huge audience or spending hours on social media. That's exactly what we'll create together in a podcast profit plan discovery call. During this free 20-minute call, I'll help you discover more opportunities for profit in your podcast and give you the next best step to turn your show into a client attracting machine. If I've got an offer that will help you expedite this process, then we can also discuss working together. Book your free podcast profit plan discovery call now by going to podcastingformoms.co/profit plan or by clicking the link in the show notes. I can't wait to chat with you. So if you listened to the last episode and found yourself nodding along, especially to the part about doing this alone, then today's episode is going to feel very familiar. Because I want to talk about what's actually holding most podcasts back. And I'll tell you right now, it's not consistency, even though that's what most people tend to blame. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to Podcasting for Moms, the show for moms in business ready to start, grow, and scale a podcast that turns their listeners into buyers. I'm Jenny Soneson, a podcast strategist and fellow mom entrepreneur. You're in the right place if you want to learn how to start and grow a podcast that attracts your ideal clients and really does the heavy lifting for you when it comes to selling your offers, all while balancing life as a busy mom. Are you ready to create a podcast that grows your income, impact, and influence? Let's make podcasting work for you, because as moms, we know how to get things done. All right, let's jump into the episode. Hey, and welcome back to Podcasting for Moms, the podcast for mom entrepreneurs who are looking to start, grow, and scale their podcasts and turn their listeners into buyers in part-time hours. I'm Jenny, your host, mom of two, podcast and business mentor for moms, and Dr. Pepper junkie, and I'm so excited that you're here. All right, let's jump into the episode. So let me guess, you've probably thought, if I could just be more consistent, if I didn't miss that 1 week, or if I could get ahead. And yes, consistency does matter. But if consistency were the real problem, then everyone who posts every week would be seeing the results. Then everyone who posts every week like clockwork would be seeing results. And that's just not true. I work with podcasters who are incredibly consistent and they're still stuck. So let's talk about what's really happening here. So here's what it's not. It's not your mic, it's not your intro music, it's not your cover art, or the fact that you missed a week in December. Those are easy things to point to because they're visible. But the real issues usually aren't. So let's talk about what actually holds podcasts back. And the first thing is lack of strategic direction. And this is the biggest one. A lot of podcasters are consistent, but they're consistent without a plan. They're asking, what should I talk about this week? Instead of, what is this episode meant to do? When every episode has a different goal, tone, or audience in mind, momentum stalls even if you're showing up. Consistency without direction equals spinning your wheels. The second thing that holds people back is decision fatigue behind the mic. So podcasting requires a surprising number of decisions. Every episode you have to figure out the topic, the angle, the call to action, the title, the description, the promotion plan. And when you're also a mom, a business owner, and a human with limited mental space, those decisions get heavy quickly. That's when podcasting starts feeling like I should record, but I just don't have the energy to think. That's not a motivation problem, that's a support problem. The third thing is a podcast that isn't connected to your business. So this one is sneaky. Your podcast might be growing, slowly, but growing. But if it's not clearly connected to your offers, your services, or your next step, then it starts to feel frustrating because you're putting in effort, but you're not seeing any return. And eventually, resentment begins to creep in. Not because podcasting doesn't work, but because it isn't being used strategically. The fourth and final thing that holds podcasts back is invisible production friction. This is the stuff that no one talks about. The editing, the uploading, the formatting, the tech hiccups, the why is this taking me so long type moments. Each one feels small, but together they drain momentum. And when your production feels heavy, it becomes harder to show up creatively. So here's the reframe I want you to take with you. Most podcasters don't need more discipline. They need fewer decisions, a clear direction, and someone helping them hold the structure. Momentum isn't created by trying harder, it's created when friction is removed. And I'll say this gently because this isn't a sales episode. When podcasting starts to feel harder than it should, it's often because you're carrying too much of it alone. The strategy, the production, the decision-making, the execution. Support doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that you don't have to. So as you continue listening through the rest of this series, I want you to notice something. Where does your podcast feel heavy? And where do you stall out? Where do you overthink? Those friction points are usually the clearest indicators of where support would actually help you. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about what it really looks like to be supported behind the mic, not in theory, but in practice. And this episode will drop this Friday, in addition to our Thursday episode. So this week you're getting 4 episodes, which is crazy. So yeah, I will see you in our next episode, which is episode 3, talking about what it really looks like to be supported behind the mic. See you there. Thank you for tuning into Podcasting for Moms. I hope today's episode gave you the tools and inspiration you need to make your podcast work smarter, not harder. If you love what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It means the world and helps other moms in business find the show. For more tips, resources, and support, head to podcastingformoms.co. Remember, you're not just building a podcast, you're building your legacy. Until next time, friends.